Yep.
When I say great whiskey countries, what comes to mind?
Ireland, of course.
Yeah, of course. We got Scotland, we got America, Canada, Japan. They're doing good things. Australia's even getting in the
That's right.
getting in the game.
Of course.
I bet you any money, no one out there said Wales. We'll have a chat about this while we have a wee dram of Penderyn Madeira single malt Welsh whiskey.
You were
That's
very
a mouthful.
precise. I will not fuck this up. So my first question is this the only distillery in Wales?
Not the only. There's not many.
Right.
There's a handful, but Penderyn was the first of the comeback.
Right, okay.
So there's a bit of history here with this. So in Wales, we're talking 1800s,
Okay.
Whiskey distilling was quite a big thing.
Right.
There was numerous amounts of, small distilleries, all the rest of it. I think it was about 1880s or so, it finally become more industrialised and some big names started coming through.
Okay.
But around that time, we've seen it with Irish whiskies and that. There was a bit of trouble, as far as, wars and prohibition and all these sorts of things. Scotland had a good footing, so they kept going. Ireland only hung in by the skin of their teeth. Wales, they'd only been around for, 30 odd years in an industrial sort of size, so around 1910, although I think was the very last Wales distillery shut doors, and then that was it for about 100 years.
Oh, fine.
So it sort of wasn't a thing until, like every great idea that ever comes about, it was a group of mates at a bar.
Naturally, yeah.
And they were sort of sitting there saying, well, Scotland has whiskey, Ireland has whiskey.
Okay.
What the hell does Wales not have whiskey? So scattered around, found a place with a nice water source. I think it was like a fresh spring or something like that.
Nice.
And fired up this distillery. I think it was about 2000 they fired up. 2004 they did their first release,
Right.
which was very heavily endorsed by the Prince of Wales at the time. There you go. Now
Right,
King
yeah.
Charles, he did a
Very
big
good,
endorsement,
yeah.
obviously going to help Wales out a bit, jobs and money in and this and all the rest.
Well, I'm going to be honest, that's probably why we didn't hear about it in Ireland.
So, So as far as advertising goes, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's quite literally a royal advertisement, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, one little elephant in the room we'll get out of the way first. Generally, when a whiskey has a big number on the front,
Yeah.
that's your age statement, right? You
Okay.
usually get a 12 or 15 or 20. What does that say?
41. That's not 41.
They opened up in 2000.
Right.
I don't know how they got away with that, but that's just in regards to 41%.
Oh,
that's
okay.
all that is. But
Yeah.
they've managed to stick a big number biggish number on the front.
Yeah.
Little trick there, I think.
I think that's a good trick. It's a psychological thing. As you says, you expect the age to be plastered on the front. You're looking down at 41. What? Oh. And
Yes.
immediately you're picking it up.
Yes.
Whether or not you buy it, that's another thing, but you've picked it up.
This
That's the
bottle
first step.
was gifted to me by an old friend of mine, which I think is exactly his thought when he picked up the bottle. It's like, Sam's going to be impressed with a 41-year-old.
That's right.
For cheap. Now, one thing that really excited me about learning about these guys is, these boys that come up with this, they didn't want to follow in Scotch's footsteps. They didn't want to be an Irish whiskey. They
Right.
wanted something that represented Wales, right? So they wanted something different. Their first step into that was they got them some help from a scientist, Dr. David Faraday.
Okay.
And with his help, they created a whole new type of still, now called a Faraday still.
Right.
So whereas you got your normal single copper pot stills or your column stills, this is basically like a hybrid of both
Okay.
put together. Now what that does is we've spoken about Irish whiskies before being quite light, crisp, approachable, kind of florally, fruity sort of flavours.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that there are a lot of Irish whiskies out there that are heavy, full flavoured, rich kind of flavours. That all comes from the cask and the aging process more than the distilling process, because as you know, a lot of Irish whiskies are triple distilled.
Yeah.
Right. And so the process of that is to try and strip as many of those oils and heavy, dense, meaty kind of flavours out of it to leave you with a nice, light, easy drinking, clean whiskey.
Yeah.
Right. So again, we have found a lot of heavy, rich whiskies out there, like Whistler and Silky and things like that. But again, that all comes from the cask, not so much from the spirit itself post distillation.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So what these guys wanted to do was sort of do something similar to Irish whiskey and keeping it very clean canvas to start with. So they created this Faraday still. I've got some numbers here. So a normal copper pot still in its spirit run will generally produce a 65 to 70% alcohol content.
Okay.
With one run of what these guys use, it ends up being 92% or thereabouts. So it's a very clean, very clean canvas to work with. So then they can start toying with their finishing cast and everything. So, which, yeah, you can smell it. It's quite a lot. I mean, there's taste there, but it is come across as something light and crisp. Now,
there's a smell there, but like you said, light and crisp. It kind of nearly vanishes on you.
Yeah.
After a second.
Smells very approachable. Before I taste it, I'll say it is. They first age it in ex-bourbon barrels, but these guys have got good connections. They're working with, from what I believe, Buffalo Trace and Evan Williams barrels.
Right.
So they're big hitters in the bourbon world. So they've obviously, gotten good connections in such a short time. And then they finish it in Madeira cask. Okay. Now Madeira is kind of like it's a fortified wine, almost kind of somewhere between sherry and port.
Right.
That sort of came about through, they used to ship these barrels a long way in sailing ships, and they'd sit out in the sun on the ocean a lot and get really hot.
Yeah.
They found out that actually made that wine taste better. So now they intentionally heat these barrels up,
right.
And that's sort of how Madeira came about. So,
cool.
Which is not a common barrel to use. So again, these boys wanting to do something different.
Well, that's certainly unique of anything that we've had so far. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we've had plenty of port and plenty of sherry, but Madeira, I don't know if we've had anything.
I don't think we have. That's the first I'm hearing of it. It's a lot of Oloroso, sherry casks and stuff like that. Yeah, but no, Madeira's new.
I mean, you can get a little bit of wine and stuff there, but
sorry, just if I'm completely honest, I thought you were mispronouncing Madeira, and I was so
not Madeira Brothers. All right, so. I mean, you can get a bit of that raisin and wine, just a very hint when you're thinking about it on the nose.
That's nice.
I think they've achieved what they're after there. That's different.
Oh yeah, that's unique.
That is.
I'm trying to put that into a box based on everything that we've done so far, and I can't really. I'm struggling.
It is very different, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like there's a hint of sweet, but it disappears quite quickly. It's not hard hitting.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's light.
It's definitely light, approachable. It's very it's kind of delicate. Very dry.
A little dry.
You kind of get this sort of dry sensation to it.
Like if you had a dry wine.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Bit of sort of wine port sort of flavour on that back end. But yeah, you kind of get that those typical bourbon flavours in there, your oaks and your vanillas and caramels a bit.
Yeah.
But
a little bit like a dessert wine, maybe? I mean, a dessert wine is quite fruity and quite strong.
Yeah.
Maybe just a hint of that?
Yeah. Sort of like your dried fruits, raisins.
It's nice though.
It's sort of hard to come to words of what that is.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, that's unique. It stands out. Definitely approachable.
Yeah.
You could get behind that very easily.
It kind of doesn't It's sort of confusing because, again, we haven't had it before, so it's sort of, you can't liken it to anything, but it kind of like wins you over slowly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like, what is that? But I don't mind it.
I feel like it's got a bit of a taste like a sweet Scotch, but it's light like an Irish. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
They've taken the base of what an Irish whiskey is and can be, like with its very clean canvas
Crisp
to start
and clean.
with.
Yeah.
But then it's like they've aged it in a way that a Highland Scotch would be
Maybe,
aged, you know?
Yeah. Like a heavy flavour in the aging.
But it's not heavy as in oily. It's not heavy as in rich.
No.
But it's got heavy flavour.
Yeah.
That is very different.
That's nice. Yeah, I think I'm going to give the Welsh a thumbs up for that one. I mean, my God,
Yeah.
You know, Prince Charles endorsement aside, of course. I think the lads have done well with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See the dreams that can be made at a bar with your friends. You know what I mean? All right, we give it a little cut with a cube of ice. What do you think?
Yeah, again, there's not much oil in that.
No.
So I don't know if this is really going to
I don't think it's
do
going to
a
make
lot.
a massive difference. But we can give it a try for a second. Now, the other thing we should probably say is we're doing this kind of quickly for the sake of the review, but correct me if I'm wrong, if you choose to cut your whiskey with a cube of ice, give it a little time to melt. Let it actually
Let it
sit
settle,
in there.
yeah.
We're trying to give it a little spin to do it relatively quickly, but you should always take a couple of minutes and let it do its job before you try. So.
kind of brings almost like a toastiness to it.
Toastiness.
Kind of like the charred oak barrel from the bourbon.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think it brings that forward a little bit.
Think so?
Pulls the wine back and brings the bourbon forward.
I feel like it's
Really?
a bit like the same taste, but it's kind of like it's spread out is coming to my mind, but that's not correct.
It doesn't get rid of any flavours, but it just sort of it thins it out.
Thins it out. Maybe it's that the taste doesn't hit you straight away.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
It's like it waits a second.
Yeah, it's
Before.
very clean up front.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of on
That's
that
maybe
back
what it
end,
is.
it's sort of you start finding those flavours back again.
I think that might be right, but still,
Actually,
still
that was
dry.
quite pleasant with ice.
It is quite.
Yeah,
dry.
yeah.
It's nice, but it is still quite dry
Yeah.
compared to some of the other ones that we've had. So yeah, that's an interesting choice for tonight. I think.
Yeah.
What are we thinking? Out of 5 glasses.
Ooh. Again, it's really hard to judge these
Yeah.
being so different
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
because it's hard to compare. You know what? I'm going to go like 3.5.
3.5. for
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's unique, but it is pleasant, and it's delicate but flavorful at the same time.
Yes.
It's not a punch in the face, but yeah, as I said, it can grow on you slowly.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so. I think I
yeah.
can agree with that. I feel like that's something you could sit over for an evening very easily. The dryness notwithstanding.
I was going to say, if you're a dry wine drinker,
yeah,
this would be brilliant for you.
That's
yeah.
that's actually what I was just going to say, because I'm not a wine drinker, so I maybe wouldn't sit on it the whole night, but I could, the flavour wise, it's definitely sitting there for me. So I think I would give that a solid 4,
Yeah,
personally. But
nice.
just to disagree a little bit.
I'll take it. So that is Welsh, single malt Welsh whiskey. And if there is any other countries out there that you know of that make some whiskey, shoot us some directions in the comments.
Yeah, 100%.
That is really fun, trying stuff from around the world and just to see what kind of different things that they do, different processes they have. As I said, these guys with their unique stills and all the rest of it is quite fun to learn about. So if you know of any more out there that aren't well known and aren't so common, let us know in the comments.
Absolutely, because I mean, that's what I'm just thinking. I mean, how different can you go within the category of whiskey? But we've already seen quite a few options. We've seen the Irish, we've seen the Scottish, we've seen Japanese, obviously American. They're all different in their own categories, and still broadly under the umbrella of whiskey.
Yeah, so, but each like category and region hold a certain so
level.
bourbon is bourbon.
Yeah,
Irish whiskey again.
That's right.
Can be you know, dense and rich and all the rest, but for a broad spectrum is quite a light, easy drinking.
As a general
Yeah,
rule,
exactly.
I mean, apart from the few that we've tried the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
most of them are a bit lighter and easier. And
and again, you know, Islay whiskies are smoky and things like that. So when you find something new like this, yes, all Welsh whiskey might fall under this sort of umbrella, but finding it new for the first time, it is very unique.
It is, it stands out, that's right. So now I'm starting to think, what would other countries do? Would we have, there must be a German distillery, I mean, is that like aged in a beer cask?
Too busy with
what
the
is
beer.
it? I mean, you know, but Germany's famous for beer, you know, Ireland obviously has whiskey, but it's got Guinness as well, which, you know what I mean? These
beer.
Straight beer. Beer. No, beer. Beer. Yeah, so it'd be very interesting to see what people do with whiskey. So, yes, please, everybody, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share us far and wide. Even if you don't think people want to see us, just share us out there anyway. You never know, right? You can't judge other people's, okay? Thank you very much for joining us.
So that was Penderyn Madeira, single malt Welsh whiskey.
As a
I've
fine
been practicing that all afternoon.
Sound like you're still practicing. Penderyn, single malt. All right.
Thanks for joining. Cheers.
Good choice, sir. We were in sync there. Look at that. It's very good.
So,
Fuck. The comparison and make it a you know, we'll be hammered, but by the end of the night we'll have
I feel like there wasn't enough bloopers.
what
am I gonna do?